So, hello everyone. Nice to see you, those I know. Nice to meet you, those who I don't. Welcome the new MUNers, the experienced MUNers, and everything in between, and obviously our wonderful hosts for this workshop. Today, we're going to talk about opening speeches and research. And there is a reason, by the way, that's also going to be the order. First opening speeches and then research, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because if you don't know what you're looking for, your research is not going to have a point. And we need to understand that our goal in Model UN, in our preparation, is to come up with a policy. This is generally called a clash. It's a policy that at least one other country is going to oppose. If nobody opposes it, no one's going to talk about it. So that should be in one sentence that's what we're looking for. So to get us into the now for those who have done Model U and never done it before, please put number one in the chat if you have never done a simulation before, like you really like know absolutely nothing, and please put two in the chat if you have done some version of simulation with your club or in your school. All right, we got a lot of ones, some twos. Wonderful. Okay, so all right, so I'm going to give a drop of background on what Model UN is in general, and then we're going to move into speeches. So, uh, Model United Nations is an activity where we simulate what is done in the UN itself. And I'm guessing for those who haven't done Model UN yet, AtidMUN is going to be your first conference, which is very, very exciting. So, just to quick introduce myself, my name is Daniel Gindis. I'm the director of Ambassador Academy, which is a company which teaches Model UN among other activities. Our goal is to teach speaking English with confidence through activities like Model UN, like debate, like TED Talks. The ability to use language effectively and for us to think on our own feet is even more important now when written assignments and video can be called into question, and the skills that you will be working on with Model UN are really going to be, life-changing. I think you can ask the Secretary General, Dvir or Naya, about how they've changed as people. In fact, I'm going to do that right now because what better, like, why believe me when you can leave people doing it for many years? Oh, I know what! Someone's asking us to speak publicly. All right, can you please spotlight Dvir? Tell us a little bit about how you've gained from Model UN in the, I don't know, 20 conferences you've done.
Oh
Maybe
no.
more.
30, I don't know.
So okay, I'll start by introducing yourself to the people who just joined. Hi, I'm Dvir. I'm your Secretary General in AtidMUN, and I've probably been to around 40 conferences or something along those lines. I believe that, like Daniel said, MUN as a general gives you many tools for your personal life, as well as speaking like publicly, just as I'm doing now. I think if you would have put me on the spot like this even 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I would be frozen and like this. So I believe that MUN has actually given me such fun experiences on top of the tools that you're given. Um, it's really every conference has its own thing, and it's wonderful to see the community in Israel growing steadily. Um, gonna be a good conference, and I hope you all learn a thing or two from this workshop and the conference itself.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you, Dvir. All right, Naya, if we can have Naya to tell us a little bit about her immune experience and what she gained from this activity as a person
Before she off to New York to the
before she. Oh,
international competition or was. Okay.
I guess I agree with Dvir. Hi everyone, I'm Naya. I'm one of the co-under Secretary Generals of Academics in AtidMUN this year. I've been to about 20 conferences, and I think most I've learned how to connect with people. Because before MUN, I had experience in debate and public speaking. What I didn't have experience in is creating connections and having to go over, learning how to deal when you have disagreements. Because at the end of the day, a big part of MUN is working together to build bridges to find solutions for these issues. So yeah, I think that's most of it.
All right. Hold on. We could say it's like finding solutions for issues. Do you feel that you're ready to deal with spontaneous situations much better?
Definitely. I mean, even in, just from not just from experience in crisis, but also regular committees, sometimes you get thrown where delegates think things that are completely different from what you've prepared, and you just have to learn how to adapt to the current situation. So definitely.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you, Naya. Uri, can we get you up here? All right, Uri, tell us what you have
Yeah.
gained on your Model UN journey.
I think that what I've really gained, like overall, that like yeah, public speaking and connecting with people, but I think I really learned strategy and seeing a room and knowing how to handle all the different people in it and all the different situations in it. And that's such a big and important real life skill that I think everybody should have of just reading a room in the most basic of situations. And it's like so important.
And building your blocks.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Uri. Okay, so bring it back. While some of what they said was not with terms that we understand or know yet, the fact is that you're looking at people, your age or slightly older who have been to 30 or 40 of what this thing is. And they speak so casually and easily about what may seem overwhelming when we get our guides, when we get our countries. So you too will reach a place where this language will be second nature to you, and that's really exciting. And with that, I'm happy in this workshop to welcome you all to the world of Model UN. It's an amazing world. It changes lives, changed my life, and I never had fear of public speaking. And I'm a native English speaker, and it was still one of the most impactful things that I did. Like Model UN debate, I credit for teaching me how to think in university. I didn't even do these things when I was in high school. So you're all really lucky that you will be getting skills now through practice that, business leaders and politicians pay a lot of money to try to gain, and many don't. If you stick to this discipline, it will really make the rest of your life much easier, and you'll be able to speak a language and have an ability of your mind, which, very few other activities can develop. So and I also say for my own journey, I've done many conferences as a delegate, as a chair, as a member of secretariat, and it impacted me so much that I started a training company with the purpose of bringing these skills to, schools across Israel. And I also have a website, WiseMee.com, which I founded with a friend to use collective Model UN knowledge of people. And we, by the way, have a delegates course on the website now if anybody is interested. It's really like in-depth and comprehensive of different parts of the Model UN world. So with Model UN, for those who are first timers, it breaks down into the following. You're going to represent a diplomat from a country, like many of you wrote in your bios. You are going to research your position, what we're going to learn today. We're going to present our ideas through speeches. We're going to learn that today. You create a group and write down your ideas. How to write ideas is hopefully going to be our workshop next week. And you pass these ideas with a majority vote. This is I would say, cooperative competition. You need to work together to get your ideas passed with others. So after years of Model UN, broke it down to research, speak, group, write, vote. And you're going to do it over 2 days at AtidMUN. Awesome conference, and come say hi, while you're there. So that's Model UN in a nutshell. Let's see what it looks like over here in person. You can see that there are people speaking. In the group, people are getting up, shaking their hands, walking around, writing on laptops, and then voting in smaller or larger rooms. This is Model United Nations. So, with this in mind, I want to teach us about the opening speech because in your preparation, especially if it's your first conference or among your first conferences, you need to produce this 60-second speech, which is usually going to be 100 words. And it's better to speak 100 words slowly than 200 words quickly. The entire purpose of everything that we're doing here is to make sure that other people can understand you. So I, by the way, learned to speak much more slowly because I found that when I spoke quickly, people who were not as fluent at Model UN jargon or not as used to English at that speed wouldn't understand me. And if I wanted to be the most impactful diplomat, I had to speak slowly. I don't think anyone here, most of you probably haven't been told, speak more quickly. No one speaks so slowly that someone says, hey, speak faster. Okay, so let's jump to opening speeches. Now, I'd like to apologize again that this is not going to be as in depth as I would like. Again, we have, probably an hour together, and with that, I have to cover workshops that I usually do 3 hours each. If you'd like to see more of this, there are articles on WiseMe that I can post into the chat for both of these, and there are probably videos on the YouTube Ambassador Academy account where I do these workshops in more length. So, but this is to get us started. So for speech writing, and the reason that I teach this first is because if we don't know what it is that we're trying to do, our research doesn't go anywhere. I've seen people give hours and hours of research and really not, get to anything conclusive. You learn a lot about the topic, about your country, but you don't know what you're trying to produce. And so this is the speak part of research and speak. So today we're going to do speak and then research. So the speech formula that I teach, and there are a few. I think there's merit to some, definitely lack of merit to others. Is the CIA format, which is clash, information, action, and you need to get this done in 100 words, and you need to get this done in a way that you can present in clear, comfortable way. I don't know. Does anyone here know who Alex Hormozy is? Okay, he's a business entrepreneur. He says that when he wrote his book, he said to write a book from 0 to 80 takes 100%. From 80 to 90, another 100%. From 90 to 92 and a half, another 100%. And from that to 95%, another 100%. So don't expect to get the perfect speech on the first try. I think we can ask, Naya, how many conferences did you do before you felt comfortable? Like, you felt you came up with opening speeches relatively quickly?
Probably like 6 conferences.
All right, 6 conferences, 6 prep, a whole bunch of time. Actually, if everyone who did write DMUN before, if you can write in the chat, after how many conferences did you feel comfortable with coming up with an opening speech within like an hour of work or less? How many conferences, right? One, two, three, however many. 2 conferences, four, five. Okay, so it's not a natural, excellent. 5 of 4 to 7, beautiful. This makes complete sense. This is not a natural way to think. Okay, beautiful. Thank you for posting. So, clash is 1 line. Information, 2 lines. Your call to action, 3+ lines. What do these things mean? Clash is what you want to do in 1 line. I'm going to teach a Zoom workshop to the AtidMUN delegates on Tuesday night from 7:30 to 8:30. That's what I want to do. Information is why you want to do it, and you must use a number. This is your place for data and research. Also, 1 to 2 lines. So, for example, I'm starting at 7:30, or this is probably 7:15, and there are 74 participants. Okay, so there you have some numbers. How you're going to do it is the what in 3 steps. First, we're going to make a link on Zoom. I'm going to send it to Bronya, who's going to send it to Dvir, to message to everyone in either email or WhatsApp so they have the link. Okay, so 3 steps. Now you can assume that this workshop will get to everyone, but how is it going to happen? Theoretically, I could send it with a carrier pigeon. Theoretically, I can make a smoke signal and you can see the URL code in the sky. So just because we assume how things work, because we come from a similar frame of reference, doesn't ensure the how. And I can say for myself as a delegate, for those who are more than 2 or 3 conferences, I found people who gave clashes without call to action, or even less than a clash. They gave a general feeling of what side of the issue they were. And I would, steal their speech. I'd say, I completely agree with Honduras. They're completely supporting my idea, which is to take all the troops out of the border. And that's not what they meant. But then they're playing catch up and they're waiting for 10 more speeches till they get to speak again. So for this reason, you want to make sure you specify what you want, why, and how you're going to get there. Now, for Clash, it's simply Dear Delegates, and I say don't do introductions. My recommendation, again, I'm here to say what I think. Quotes, introductions, whatever flowery thing you have is going to cost you at least 10 seconds out of your 60 seconds. And it doesn't help because anyone in the room with experience or from a good club is waiting for your clash. If I say, honorable dear delegates, as the representative of the Netherlands, I'm here to represent the king, his family, and we're all very happy to be here. If you see red, white, and blue, it's not the US or the UK or Australia or Russia. It's us, the Dutch. Okay, what did I achieve there? Maybe you smile, but it wasted time. It's very, the term tachles, like get to the point. Start with your clash. So if people zone out and stop listening, they will at least know what you want. All right, let's have somebody read. Tarek, can you read? Tarek, New Zealand, Interpol. All right, he's not paying attention. Kenya Sakyum, can you read? That's why we need people's names. All right, Idan, Netherlands, can you read?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dear delegates, Norway believes we should give 240 tons of food to North Korea without conditions within 3 months. In November of 2024, North Korea closed 6 foreign embassies. This resource-saving action was done once before in the 1990s during Great Famine that killed 2 to 3 million people.
Okay, beautiful. So see here, this is clash information. Do we see what Norway wants to do? Do we see a justification for why they want to do it with numbers? We see 1990s. We see 2 to 3 million. We see 6 foreign embassies. It's a lot of data. What does this show? It shows that the person researched. It means that their claim is more likely credible. Okay, if I were to hear this speech, the amount of, by the way, did we know that a country closes embassies during famine? Wow, this is quite a piece of data. Like it seems like Norway knows what they're saying. So we see here that the amount of words that we have here is about 40 words, conveying a lot of information. And this is our goal. Our goal is when we start, before we're halfway through our speech, everyone already knows where we stand and that we did research. When we research, people want to work with us. When we do research, we sound smart. And that's also why we use the numbers that we use. Okay, so let's jump into a quick review of the three. Though, as you see, in my sort of CIA version of this speech, I gave you all the basics. If you stop listening now, you still know what, why, how. You still know that you're supposed to use numbers. So if you left the Zoom right now, you still had something valuable. I would say with your MUN speech, you want to think of it like a video or a picture on Instagram, or if you're looking at the news, a news picture on a news app. The picture that you see has to draw your attention to read the text. If it doesn't, you click on. We click on in less than a second. If we read the text and it's boring, we're not going to keep reading the text. We are so oversaturated with media these days that it needs to be something really good to stand out to us. And the same thing here. Your clash needs to be interesting. From the moment you start speaking, people are losing attention. And to those who've done 2 or 3 conferences, you know it can be quite a slog getting through the opening statements, especially if they're not very good. Like if they're all good, you're in high energy for like, however long it is to hear all of them. And if they're bad, you're like trying to wade through. So try to make it easy, try to make it succinct, and give as much information as you can. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about these three things. Clash is what you want to do. Clash is a specific, practical, disputable policy that can get a majority in one sentence. Okay? It's what you want to do to solve the problem in one line, unless you want the problem to keep going, in which case you need to offer a policy which will perpetuate the problem in one line. For example, let's send a team of scientists to research this virus outbreak in Turkey and we'll have a conference to discuss it in 4 years. Okay, that's a great policy where you're offering where clearly nothing immediate is going to happen. But you always have to offer something. Something beats nothing. And this is the difference between policy oriented thinking and saying something is a good idea. Like it would be great to get rid of racism. It would be great to cure everyone in the world of COVID. But at the same time, if we say that we have a laboratory working on some kind of, cure, which is going to deliver results in 3 months, and we say where the lab is, let's say in Vern or something, that's the difference. Okay? So the clash needs to show what will happen, who it's going to happen to, when and where. So Peru would have Facebook immediately take down all the deep fakes which feature political candidates during elections. Okay? So this is an example of a clash. Peru would have Facebook take down all deep fakes which feature for political candidates during elections. And see again, with all these examples, we understand it clearly. We read the one sentence and we get it. That's what you want the audience to get when they listen to the things that you say. What? Take down all the deep fakes which feature political candidates. Who? Facebook. Immediately. Where? On Facebook. Another one. The World Food Program should send 240,000 tons of food to the people of North Korea in January. Okay? We're in November right now. So, what? Send 240,000 tons of food. Who? People of North Korea. Where and when? January and North Korea. Okay, so clearly here we can see that in one sentence you can convey a lot of information. Give a lot of information to the countries who are listening to you speak. Now, as I said, in one sentence, it's a policy that at least one country will not agree with. So you just write it down, what your idea is, think one country won't agree. Good, you're ready to keep going. Now, the more detailed breakdown is specific means one clear interpretation, practical means exists in the real world. I can't send all the food. I can send 200 tons of food. Disputable, someone must disagree. Get a majority. You can ideally get 50%. And one sentence with one period. Don't use the word and. We know this from English literature in English class. And is already two ideas. One idea. If you see you're doing two, for example, we're going to fine shipping companies that pollute and use that money to help endangered species. That's not one clash, that's two. And that makes it more difficult because then someone needs to just knock one of your two ideas. And when they knock one of your two ideas, your whole thing can fall apart. If you say and, pick the idea that's better and stick to it. Commit. If the chair sees that your opening speech has a clash, and that clash is on the final resolution, a central idea, you did a good job defending and bringing it through. That you're able to predict and defend your idea is the credit you get as a good diplomat. Okay, so we gave a bunch of clash examples. Like we said here, give 240,000 tons of food to North Korea, find the largest fishing companies to make microplastics, give 100,000 doses of morphine to fentanyl addicts. These are all different examples of clashes that you can use. Okay? So are there any questions on clash? No, we're good. Give me a thumbs up to the camera if we're good. Are we good? Okay, excellent. Let's move on to information. But there's a little bit more to say about Clash, which you can go into the article, but this is, I think, enough for us to move on right now. Information, hard facts, and numbers. Information is the Y plus hard facts. Okay, information is saying what we are saying exists in the real world, and it's not just an opinion. Okay, so make sure to use a number. For numbers, there are two things that I add here. One is they should be whole, specific, unround numbers. Do not round the numbers. If they are unround, I would say even unround them if you can, and do not use percentages. Okay, I'm going to tell you why. First of all, unround numbers are more persuasive and more accurate. 10,000 sounds like it's rounded. It's not as clear in the mind as 10,622. We're used to rounding all the time. Millions. By the way, the North Korea thing I pointed out before happened in the 1990s. That's not as clear as 1997, for example. So specific unround numbers work. Number two is percentages. We don't know how to evaluate percentages and it lacks impact. We don't, by the way, this is also outside of Model UN. If you use a random percentage, it doesn't work because we don't know what 10% more delegates joined Daniel's Zoom workshop in, this year. What does that mean? 10% more. We could say there's 50% more. It doesn't move anything. But if I say we have 15 less participants, or we have 20 more, We feel it in a different way. And I want you also to like check in with yourselves while I'm saying these things. What works? What do we feel? What do we understand? If I say, for example, let's really help the people of North Korea. If I say, let's invest a lot in stopping the virus, that's different from investing $200 million to stop measles outbreak. Okay, so that's the difference. One sounds smarter, one hits, the other one is already out of our head. Okay, so 20% more students came to class this week. What does 20% mean? 91% increase in hate crimes. What does that mean? What, like, was it last year? Was it one crime? Was it zero? Was it 1,000? So, for this reason, don't use percentages. And if you have to, connect them to a number. So, for example, there is a 20% crime increase. Last year there were 100 crimes, which means now there's 120 crimes. You have to connect it. If we know a class has 30 students, that means 6 students. So say 6 students, and you'll see later in one of our speech examples, there's going to be a statistic which is then connected to a real world example. Spoiler, it's city buses full of garbage. If I say it's 7 city buses full of garbage, that works rather than, 3 tons or, 500% increase in trash on the beach. Okay, any questions about information? All right, so the data and facts you need must have a number. This is something I strongly recommend. You should bring data, show that you researched. It's not just your country's opinion, it's backed up in something. All right, action. How to solve the problem. Call to action is a practical solution of how to solve in numbered steps. Get used to writing this in steps 1, 2, 3. I recommend say steps 1, 2, 3. If you don't do this, if your class information is good, another good delegate can say that you support their idea. They can say the whole room does. I've had more than one committee I've been in where people were just very vague in general, and I was the only one laying down concrete things. And in a short amount of time, the worldview I set up was the one that was accepted. Why? Because no one else offered anything. It's learning to offer specific things, which is what moves you ahead. In the end, it's what do you want? Not as a general, fluffy feeling. So action is multiple steps how to solve the issue. For example, who should get the Lambda vaccine first? Doctor, older people, the financial sector. So in 3 steps, one, divide the booster vaccines between 44 hospitals. Two, a quarter of the specialists vaccinate each week. Three, in 1 month, all the doctors will have been vaccinated. Voila, that makes sense. It makes more sense than, let's say, us going to, Australia in, you know, than one of the committee's house and then everyone waiting outside for, their family to vaccinate everyone or, it to be done through some other means. So make sure to explain it. Now, in the UN and in, most of life, detailed instructions are important because the people carrying them out are not there for the discussion. They're not going to know what you mean. They're not going to read your mind. And this is why calls to action should be clear and answer the how step in multiple steps. And it's also important for us because if we can't break down and explain the idea in our opening speech, we won't be able to when people are arguing with us about either following our idea or building it into clauses. And the part 1, 2, 3, those details are probably what you're going to write down in your resolution. So the more it's broken down for you, the better you can defend it and the easier it'll be to write it later. Okay? So any questions on call to action? Okay? So I want to add one more thing. It's important for your call to action to make sure that your steps are 1, 2, 3 of the same plan. Okay? A mistake that many first timers make is they say, okay, we're going to increase troops to the border, we're going to create a supervisory advisory board, and we're going to set up medical camps. These are 3 separate ideas. And usually one of them can be, they're all clashes, but they're not how it's going to be. If we're going to set up an emergency medical camp, we're going to draft, 500 medical personnel from the Peace Corps. We're going to set them up in, 3 operation tents with, 15 living tents. And we're going to open up to, probably 1,000 people a day for, basic blood work and treatment. Okay, so that's 3 steps for one. So if you're called to action, make it 3 steps. Make sure each step leads to the next one. We can't fill the tents. We can't check the 1,000 people a day if we don't get 500 people to be moved to work on this project. So steps 1 needs to lead to 2, needs to lead to 3. Okay, are there any questions on call to action? All right. Give me a thumbs up if we're clear, right? If you're not listening, don't give a thumbs up. Okay, great. Thank you, Gaia. Thank you, Bhutan. Thank you, Interpol. I'm getting one with the emoji with that. All right, let's look at an example of a speech because we still have research to do after this. Okay, example of CIA speeches. So number one, let's have an example to read. Gaia, can you please read us this speech?
Sure. Dear delegates, Brazil feels we should give a fine to the largest fishing companies that contribute to ocean microplastics. Guanabara Bay in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil is the second most polluted beach in the world, receives 90 tons of garbage a day, or 7.2 city buses a day. Our plan is for each country to submit the list of their top polluters to the UN. Each company should then be fined $250,000 for each time they return any less than 90% of the microplastics they left with. Companies who fail over 10 times will have ships suspended.
Beautiful. Thank you, Gaia. Okay, so looking at this speech, I'd like us to take a guess. And if people can write in the chat, I would appreciate it. How many words do you think this is? All right. How many words? Let's see some options. 75, 95, 80, 100, 132. Okay, good. 120, 90, 82, 115, 110, 120. Excellent. So first of all, we saw the Gaia, though she read a little bit fast, read beautifully, and it fit within 60 seconds. Now, first of all, it's definitely more than 67. But my point is, first of all, it's packed full of information. And this is what you will want from your CIA speech. You want it to be something where people leave and they are educated. Like, wow, I know what I'm supposed to think. I know why. I understand. So, first of all, this is 94 words. Look how much information is in 94 words. Now, again, this speech was not written as a first draft. This came from research and knowing, what to look for. Let's look at a breakdown. So Brazil wants to fine the largest microplastic companies that contribute to microplastics. Microplastics, they kill fish, they ruin the environment, and they come from being dumped in the water. So this is the clash. Do we know what giving a fine is? Yes. Requiring money for doing something wrong. Who? The largest fishing companies. And what are they doing? Contributing to microplastics. Where are they? On the ocean. Okay, so we understand, what is being demanded of who and for what. So what we want to do in one sentence, check. Next, information, to feel that there is research. Guanabara Bay, which, true, I also never read until I read this speech, in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. By the way, you see it there as clarification. Guanabara Bay, if you don't know it, it's in Rio de Janeiro. If you don't know what that is, it's in Brazil. Okay, so make sure but this is a good example in words of linking a percentage to a number. Because here you want to make sure it's clear to your audience. To name drop Guanabara Bay does not have impact. We don't know what that is, but we know what Brazil is. And then we say second most polluted beach in the world. We're like, wow, I did not know that. 90 tons of garbage a day. Also, by the way, that's a lot, but we don't know what a ton is. We know what a kilo is. We know, 500 grams of steak maybe, but we don't know what 90 tons of garbage is. We know it's a lot, but we don't know how much. And this is where the illustration, again, of connecting it back to 7.2 city buses. Now, the a day is there for dramatic effect, to nail it in. And by the way, this shows that in Model UN, it's not just about throwing data, it's about making it presentable. Like reading it like, we receive 90 tons of garbage a day, or 7.2 city buses a day. Okay, so to let that linger. And then there's a plan. Each country needs to submit the list of their top polluters to the UN. Each company, once there is the list and they have the ships and know what can do with it, then they can fine $250,000 each time they come with less than 90% of the plastics and the junk they left with. When you go camping or you go to do, a barbecue out, and whether it's your family, your friends, you have to clean up after yourselves. Make sure not to leave a mess behind. So they say you can tell what ships leave with. They can be inspected and say, oh, you guys have a lot less plastic than when you came. Then companies who fail, and by the way, there are ships who go and just dump their garbage in the water. There are videos, by the way, of countries where the garbage trucks will go and dump their garbage on the beach, waiting for the waves to take it away. It's terrible, but it's real. So there are ways to inspect this. And if they come with 90% of the microplastics they left with, they get a fine. And after they're fined $2.5 million, hopefully they'll learn their lesson. But if they don't, and maybe it can be less, by the way, you can amend and say it should be 5 times. Their ships will be suspended. Could be for a year. That can be decided. But the ship will stop being allowed to work. Okay? So we see here that each step leads to the next. Each step can't exist without them. Suspending the ships without due cause is not helpful. To have the list and suspend them immediately seems unfair. If you're going to, company find them, you need to know who you're finding. Is there a global list of ships? So each step leads to the next one. All right, so we see here how it works together. This is not a speech written by a first-time MUNer, but I want us all to see that this is our goal, to be so clear and succinct. And by the way, it's 94 words. So if you want to add another 6 words of a soundbite, help keep Brazil clean, microplastics, something that we don't want in our oceans and shouldn't be in yours, something like that. So there's still room, and it could even be a bit shorter. But the main idea is that you cover what is important. If you were going to use a quote or a soundbite, it would cost you important words. It's better to finish 3 seconds early than 10 seconds late. By the way, there's a reflex that many people have, which with the students and groups that I work with, I always say, like, get out of your mind that you're trying to do this like a movie where the big revealed punchline comes at the end. That's something which, as a natural reflex, we think people, we want to save the punchline for the end. But is that is not the way to do it. Start with what's most important because your audience is losing attention as fast as they are listening. So if they're going to have 100% attention for the first thing you say, but only 15% attention at the end, you want to make sure that you cover as much as possible as it goes down. Hopefully you'll be great. Hopefully it'll be interesting. But the clash is, oh, they know what they want. Oh, they brought some facts they researched. Oh, that's a good plan. Oh, wait, it's 40 seconds. And I actually listened to the whole thing. That's the desired effect with practice. And this is what everyone with MUN experience is looking for. They're looking for your policies. Charisma is great, but if you're saying nothing or if you save it for the end, people could miss it. And if you decide that you want to speak 200 words because you can't cut things, this is why I say usually better to type than write. Because once we write, oh, we already wrote it, and we cross out different lines and move it around. And before you know it, we're looking at the arrow here that goes here. The worst thing is when your call to action, which is actually your clash, is the last line of your speech and you get cut for time. And I think that, Dvir and Naya and a whole bunch of you have seen it happen where people are waiting to give their big policy reveal and they don't even get there. And then they have to wait a half hour till they speak again. Don't be that person. Put the most important things first. Ideally, finish your CIA in 45 seconds and then do whatever you want. Repeat your main points, use the rule of 3, I don't know what. But make sure that what's most important is first when everyone is listening to see who you are. There is no second chance to make a first impression. So make sure to make the first impression. So I'd like to ask with speeches. So our goal is to find our clash, to find our one sentence that can convey what we want so that people know what it is that we're trying to achieve here. So try to find your clash, and then your research, you're looking for what the clash is that will work and make sense for your country. All right, so that is our introduction to opening speeches. As I said, I'm going to put a link in the chat for this. Are there any questions? And I'm going to ask Uri to chair the question section.
Uh, yeah, Ali, Jack Tobin, Algeria from Crisis.
Yeah. I have a question. So this CIA speech, it's a method of writing a speech, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
What if we use another method, which is the HBA speech? It's like hook point action. With the hook, we grab the audience attention. With the point, we state our point. With the action, we say what we want to do. Is this acceptable or not?
I mean, look, I can give my opinion. My issue with the hook point action is that the hook usually blows half the speech, and all it does is show you're charismatic, and you can show that in other ways. I would say it's not the worst speech format. There are some that like past, present, future, which doesn't even bring a policy. I think is a much worse one. But in my opinion, I think that the hook point action, you're really just waiting for the point. And I have not seen a speech where the hook was less than 20 seconds. So in my opinion, I think it's a less good form of opening speech. Not that I'm knocking that they aren't entertaining. I've seen some really entertaining speeches like that, but you usually end up getting to the point about 20, 30 seconds in, and then you don't have time to develop your call to action.
Okay, thank you.
I'd say like but all of these take practice, by the way. And I will say if you're doing like a public speaking competition of a different format, then there is more merit. But when you have only 60 seconds and you have a lot to convey, then like each word is, very, very important. Right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Israel from Interpol.
My question is, how do we enter three topics into one speech, into one clash? In Interpol, we have three like cases on three different like kind of subtopics. How can we enter it into one speech, into maybe one clash because it's not really one.
All right, it's an
Uh,
excellent question, and I would say there are two levels to this answer. First, you're not really supposed to have one opening speech that works for multiple topics. Usually, you should have one opening speech for each topic. So if your committee has two topics, you have one opening speech prepared for each of them, and then whichever topic the committee chooses, you should give the opening speech on that topic. However, there is also something which is not really talked about, but I'll say here is that there's also an opening speech that you can make about why to choose one topic over the other. So if you have three topics, your opening speech for the agenda setting, by the way, is something which on conferences multiple days and more than one topic, you're going to choose which topic you want to talk about. That's setting the agenda. So there, you'll choose which topic to talk about first. So if you really want to prepare for everything, you would have one speech. And also, it really depends for those who've done more than, 2 or 3 MUNs. The agenda setting really depends on the conference's rules of procedure and how much to invest there. And I'll explain what I mean. Some conferences will make agenda setting up to the chair, and basically, like until there's 2/3, no agenda is set. And those are really interesting to watch. I've seen conferences where an entire day is spent setting the agenda because one of the topics is particularly bad for some countries and maybe the other is bad for others. And they really fight over that. And I personally am a fan of that because I think it really it's sort of like a mini simulation beforehand. But some rules of procedure force the agenda setting to be very fast. Two speakers for, two against, and then there's a vote. And then in that case, maybe it's not worth writing a whole speech if only 4 speakers are speaking. So consult your rules of procedure before you write an opening speech. Just choose which, topic. But remember that if you're picking one of your 3 topics, we think, what's an example of one of your topics?
Um, so the thing is, as far as I understand, we talk about all three topics in each day. So like in the first day, we talk about both drug trafficking, specifically cocaine, and the Yakuza financial crimes and gang wars, and all of this in each day, all three.
Okay. So this is probably a rules procedure thing. Secretariat, can you guys clarify talking about all 3 topics each day? Is that accurate? Is this like something different?
yeah, actually, what you said about setting an agenda, it's really relevant to this thing, and we've talked about it a lot with your chairs, and your chairs will talk about it too in the breakout rooms. You are welcome to decide what you want to pull more focus on for each of the topics, but also Interpol is a special committee, and those three subtopics have a lot of more rules upon them. So please read the RPs and read the study guide. It seems that you've already read it. So yeah, but there's much more to it, and don't worry, we and the chairs will explain it all.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right. So I'd say everything I said is for a regular committee with agenda being set. But excellent question. And I would say that for those cases, you should have a mini opening speech to choose which speech you're going to give. And if there's special rules, obviously read the special rules. At MUNs, like at AtidMUN, there's usually an experimental committee trying something different. Sometimes they're amazing, sometimes they're not. I'm saying like universally across MUN, I've seen, for example, there was a simulation where there was like a spy scenario, which on day one they're the spies, and the second day they're the government officials dealing with the actions of the spies. And that one didn't work out so well. So it's like, but this is how MUN moves forward and innovates, trying different topics and different things. So if you have special rules, read the special rules. Someone put a lot of thought into them, and hopefully they work. Okay, so that's the end of part one.